With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
It's Irish. It is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you to the legendary Scott Shannon for that introduction, and thanks to all of you for tuning in to yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey as we say goodbye to the month of July and welcome the month of August. We are knee-deep in the dog days of summer. Hot, humid, unbearable out there. You go outside for 3 minutes, you're soaking wet, eaten up by mosquitoes. Not a fun time of the year, as it's well documented on A Bunch of Malarkey. I used to love the summer when I lived in a beach community, Long Beach, New York, just a few houses from the ocean. Loved it. Couldn't get enough summer. Would almost break into tears when Labor Day weekend would come around. Now, I'm counting down the days until like mid to late October. It's the only bearable part of the year here. It's like November, December, January, part of February. Then the pollen, the tornadoes, and the heat come. And then you're stuck for 7-8 months of misery. So I hope you are all doing well. We are closing in on our 2-year anniversary, if you can believe that. I can't believe that 2 years have gone by since I started this podcast. 2 years have gone by since I wrote my book. It's just amazing how quickly time goes when you start getting a little bit older. You remember when you were a kid, sitting in elementary school, start school at, 8:30, get out at 3? The day never ended. It seemed like it was a year in that one school day. And now the weeks, every time I turn around, it's Friday. It's a weekend. It's Friday. It's the weekend. And I'm getting a lot done every week, but I'm like, every time I turn around, it's Friday, time to mow the lawn, start planning for the next week, getting all my radio stuff, my podcast stuff in order. It never ends. So if you thought 2020 couldn't get any worse, did you receive any seeds in the mail from China? Actually, my neighbor did. We have a community page, which is well documented here on A Bunch of Malarkey, our community Facebook page. And one of my neighbors actually received these mystery seeds from China. But when she peeled the label up, it was actually from Vietnam. So I don't know what the hell's going on. But officials in at least 15 states across the country have now issued warnings for residents not to plant unsolicited packages of seeds delivered through the mail and labeled as coming from China. Now, we talk about it a lot, how stupid people are, but who's going to open the package, open the seeds, and then just run to the backyard with a shovel and start planting? I mean, really, come on. Do you have to tell people this? Well, I guess you do. The United States Department of Agriculture, the Department of Homeland Security, and other state and federal agencies are investigating the packages that have shown up in mailboxes across the country. The thin light gray packaging has a shipping label that appears to come from Suzhou, a city west of Shanghai, China, and identifies the contents as a piece of jewelry like a ring or earrings, but inside, however, is a clear plastic bag of unidentified seeds. At this time, we don't have any evidence indicating this is something other than a brushing scam where people receive unsolicited items from a seller who then posts false customer reviews to boost sales, USDA officials said. Do not plant seeds from unknown origins. Shit, it's too late. I planted them, and the next morning there was this long stalk. I climbed it, and there was this kingdom of giants, and I fell down the stalk. Officials are collecting the seed packages from recipients and will test the contents to determine if they contain anything that could be of concern to the country's agriculture or the environment. Wang Wenbin, that's a nice name. Wang Wenbin. He's a spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He confirmed on Tuesday that the labels are forged and says the Universal Postal Union strictly prohibits sending and receiving seeds through the mail. After confirming with China Post, the China Post face-to-face slips on this batch of mails are forged, and there are many errors in the layout of the face-to-face slips and information items, Wenbin said during his press conference. China Post has negotiated with U.S. Post to return these fake mails to China for investigation. Since Sunday, residents in cities including Nashville, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Tampa, and Minneapolis have reported receiving these mysterious seed packages. The USDA urges anyone who receives an unsolicited package of seeds to immediately contact their state's plant regulatory official or the plant health director of their state's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. Please hold on to the seeds and packaging, including the mailing label, until someone from your State Department of Agriculture contacts you with further instructions. So, I mean, you know, there's so many different things going on in the world now with the election so close. Now, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you don't know if our own government's doing this to strengthen our suspicions of China with this whole COVID-19, calling it the Wuhan virus. I don't trust anybody right now. The people who are rioting in Portland, 99% peaceful protest, 1% of agitators. You don't know who these people are. Were they government plants trying to agitate? Are they left-wing nuts, right-wing nuts? Are they foreign operatives? You don't know. There's so much shit going on right now you don't know the answers to. So I would not put it past Russian operatives, our own government, anything to send these seeds out just to get people stirred up against China and say, I told you so. Look what they did with the virus, and now they're doing this with the seeds. I don't trust anybody right now. So 2020, COVID-19, murder hornets, seeds showing up in the mail. Now we got hurricanes. Tropical storm hurricane hit the other day in Texas. Another one coming up the coast. And now baboons with knives and chainsaws. No, that's true. Baboons, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, at a popular safari park have been spotted with knives, screwdrivers, and even a chainsaw, according to reports. The primates at Knowsley Safari Park in Merseyside, England, are already known for their destructive abilities and have been pictured previously pulling things from visitors' cars. But now, some staff are concerned that the baboons are being given weapons for a laugh by parkgoers. One worker told the press, "We're not sure if they are being given weapons by some of the guests who want to see them attack cars or if they're fishing them out of the pickup trucks and vans themselves." The worker said that the animals sometimes go into people's toolboxes to grab what they can, adding one of the baboons was seen lugging around a chainsaw. Another said some had been found with knives and screwdrivers, and also questioned whether the baboons were being armed by visitors on purpose. The baboons are already known for causing damage to people's vehicles, with one mechanic telling the press that they had repaired cars left damaged by the primates. But the safari park said suggestions that the baboons were being armed with weapons was likely to be an urban legend, saying some tales had grown in exaggeration as they had been shared to make objects found in the animals' enclosure seem more exciting and unbelievable. Oh boy. Knowsley, which is home to animals including lions, tigers, and rhinos, reopened on June 15th. Its website includes reassurance and measures to make it COVID-secure. Measures are in place, including reminding guests, if you take a drive through our baboon jungle, we're unable to return any car parts that our cheeky baboons may take, while pointing out that it is a car-friendly route. So, look out, folks. You may see a baboon running through your street with a knife, a screwdriver, or even a chainsaw. So, as you know, we have about 30% of the country that is furthering this pandemic because they won't wear masks. Everything's a political issue. They are spreading conspiracy theories about drugs that cure COVID, which don't exist, about how you can get COVID from wearing a mask. It's all these conspiracy theories out there. But then you get the assholes who every week are Mutants of the Week nominees who cause a scene because they don't want to wear a mask. And they throw donuts and urinate on floors, which we'll get to in a little while, who won last week's Mutant of the Week. Now we have people who say, okay, you're going to make me wear a mask? I'm going to wear a mask with something on it that I want to wear. Now listen to this. Walmart said it has banned a couple from its stores after they were seen on video wearing face coverings with swastikas as they shopped at one of its Minnesota locations. On Saturday, the same day Minnesota started requiring its citizens to wear masks in all indoor businesses, a Walmart customer captured video footage of a man and woman wearing face coverings emblazoned with the Nazi symbol at a store in Marshall, southwest of Minneapolis. The nation's largest retailer, which started requiring its customers to wear masks last Monday, confirmed the incident. Delia Garcia, a spokeswoman for Walmart, said the couple is banned for at least a year. Neither Walmart nor authorities identified the couple. What happened at our store in Marshall, Minnesota is unacceptable, Garcia said in a statement. We strive to provide a safe and comfortable shopping environment for all of our customers and will not tolerate any form of discrimination or harassment in any aspect of our business. We are asking everyone to wear face coverings when they enter our stores for their safety and the safety of others, and it's unfortunate that some individuals have taken this pandemic as an opportunity to create a distressing situation for customers and associates in our stores. Police served the 59-year-old man and 64-year-old woman with a trespass notice warning that if they went back to the store, they would be arrested. The two left without incident and charges were not pursued. The two were wearing masks in protest of the statewide mandate, said Jim Marshall, Director of Public Safety with the Marshall Police Department. Rafaela Mueller, 24, who filmed the video, said she was completely shocked to see the couple brazenly wearing the Nazi swastika in public. It's a sign of death, persecution, a lack of diversity, Mueller said. There was a huge disappointment, pain, grief, and anger. It was a mixture of all these emotions. After bringing up the issue with the store's manager, Mueller and her partner Benjamin Royce started filming the couple as they checked out. You're sick, Royce can be heard saying in the video as he confronts the couple wearing the mask. You have an illness. You can't be American and wear that mask. We literally had a war about this. After posing for the camera, the unidentified woman responded saying, I'm not a Nazi. I'm trying to show you what's going to happen in America if you vote for Joe Biden. You're going to be in Nazi Germany. That's what it's going to be like. Unidentified man wearing the swastika face covering can be heard saying, we're living under a socialist state. Mueller, who was born in Germany and seeing the symbol was very painful, especially when she remembered how her great-grandmother fought in the underground resistance against the Nazis in the 30s and in the 40s. The swastika is a trigger of trauma for so many people. It's been shown that trauma gets passed down in the DNA, so I know I'm carrying what my great-grandmother went through. I didn't lose anybody in the Holocaust, but I know that so many other people did. So just the thought of them having to see this, it's heartbreaking. I never knew that I'd see this with my own eyes, Mueller said, but we have to be aware and be prepared to step in when we see it. So socialist is an economic system. What does that have to do with wearing a fucking mask? People get all this confused when they say communist, socialist. They're economic systems. It has nothing to do with being told to wear a mask to protect yourself and others from a virus. I never understood that. That's like the default thing. Communist and socialist. Wrong words. Wrong choice. So maybe you're avoiding going to the store. You're still getting your groceries delivered at home. I know I am. It's costing an arm and a leg, as I mentioned last week. A strip club in Houston, Texas, found a solution for not being able to have patrons inside. It's a drive-thru strip club. You got that right. The strip club is the wheel deal. The Vivid Gentlemen's Club in Houston is now the first drive-thru strip club in Texas as the venue attempts to adjust to the coronavirus pandemic. Dancers perform in an area blocked off by metal barricades as cars drive through. Some of the entertainers are wearing masks. Drivers go into a white tent where the live entertainment is taking place and can stay inside for 2 songs as they wait for food to be prepared. Menu items include pizza, nachos, burgers, drinks, and more. We racked the numbers and thought, should we do it? And realized that if we do it, we're doing it for the entertainers, the staff, and the employees. General Manager Gino DeLolo told the Houston Chronicle. Because to keep us open, we just can't do the numbers, he said. We're not making any money. This is purely for the staff. The Lucky Devil Strip Club in Portland, Oregon, has offered a similar drive-thru experience since the COVID-19 crisis began. So if online porn isn't enough and you just have to see a live stripper, just drive through the parking lot of the Vivid Gentlemen's Club in Houston, and you will get a nice view from either your car, or you can go into that little tent area for 2 songs while you pick up your burger. So everybody's staying home. Well, people are trying to stay home, except for 700-person parties in New Jersey being broken up this week by violators. You know, you still have a third of the country that think the virus is gone and are still doing whatever they want to do. But a lot of people have been staying home, finding entertainment in their own backyards and their own homes. Now, with this uptick in people staying home, ice cream sales are skyrocketing and deodorant sales are going way, way down. Now, because you're going out less and spending more time at home, which can mean only one thing. You don't need to wear deodorant as often. With social distancing in full effect and people being forced to quarantine at home due to the pandemic, fewer people are going to the office, out to work, or out to socialize. This has led to fewer people grabbing that stick of deodorant to roll on before going out, and more people lounging at home watching Netflix with a tub of ice cream. Consumer goods company Unilever said on Thursday that demand for personal care items have slumped. The company, which owns brands such as Dove soap and Axe deodorant, said that the lockdowns have led to a big decline in sales. It hasn't been all that bad for Unilever, though. The company owns ice cream brands such as Breyers, Ben & Jerry's, and Magnum, and ice cream sales at home are up as people consume more food at home. Consumers have eaten more soups, used more meal kits, and accompanied their meals with mayonnaise and then ice cream for dessert. Unilever CEO Alan Jope told analysts on Thursday. Sales of ice cream people consumed at home increased by 15% in the first half of the year, and sales are even higher at 26% between April and June. The jump in ice cream sales at home was significantly offsetting a loss in sales in public places, the company said. Unilever is now worth $155 billion, pacing ahead of drug maker AstraZeneca, Royal Dutch Shell, HSBC, and BP. So people at home stinking and eating tubs of ice cream. That's where we're at. That about sums up 2020. Sitting in your own stench, eating a bucket of ice cream. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon. Now, you talk about people looking for something to do at home. We have a set of female twins in Australia that are trying to get pregnant by the same guy. Yeah. Australia, this is what you do. There's nothing to do, so let's get pregnant by the same guy. Australian twins, Anna and Lucy DeCinque, they call themselves the world's most identical twins, and they do look exactly alike and apparently want to do everything the same. They appeared on an Australian morning TV news show and made a huge announcement. They plan to get pregnant at the same time. They also plan on having their shared boyfriend to help them accomplish this. The 34-year-old sisters explained that while they had always had separate boyfriends before, now they share a boyfriend named Ben Byrne. Anna said, Ben accepts us for who we are. It has been equal from day one, and there is no jealousy. Lucy added, if he kisses Anna, then he'll kiss me straight afterwards. It also seems Ben has no trouble telling the twins apart, even on the phone. Anna added, we will grow old together, and died together. They've been together for 9 years, and the pair are looking into freezing their eggs at exactly the same time and trying to conceive using IVF because they want to experience pregnancy together. I did a whole show on poly. Remember that? We had Jenny in here. That was in the first season. Explained to you what polyamory was. I didn't judge it. But when you start when your sisters sharing the same guy, bringing kids into it, kind of steps over the line a little bit. You know, polyamory, not my thing. But I was open to it, sat here. Jenny explained it. You know, you have people dating multiple people where they're all aware of one another. So there's no cheating going on. Everybody knows what the other person's doing. It's, you know, you have consenting adults. So I said, okay. But now when you have sisters dating the same guy and wanting to get pregnant at the same time by the same guy, kind of where I draw the line. So if that doesn't springboard us into our favorite segment, what the hell will?
A bunch of malarkey.
Mutant of the Week.
Now here's Charlie.
So last week it was an absolute landslide. Voting was down, though, significantly. Wasn't that many votes this week. I don't know, this algorithm on Facebook, when I schedule a post to go, in other words, I'll put the Mutant of the Week poll together on the weekend for it to post on Monday. Whenever I schedule it, it doesn't reach that many people, and then I have to repost. When I don't schedule it and just put it up that day, it reaches more people. So my apologies. I'll try not to schedule anymore. I'll put it up live. But with all the work on the radio station, I've been trying to schedule things. But my apologies if you did not see the Mutant of the Week poll this week. I did repost it on, I think, Wednesday. But anyway, in an absolute landslide, the 5P network, the woman who peed on a Verizon store floor because she was told to wear a mask, she beat the pastry pitcher, the woman who threw a dozen donuts at a donut shop employee because she was told to wear a mask. It was 91 to 9% victory. So the 5P network is our Mutant of the Week. Where do you vote for the Mutant of the Week? You go to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey. Poll goes up on Monday morning, ends on Friday. 5 full days to vote. Make your voice heard. Share the poll. We need as many votes as we can get. So, you know, the more votes, the more people it reaches, the more authentic and genuine the poll is. When you have 10 people vote, or I think it was 11 this week, it's kind of a very small cross-section. So, you know, it's still 91 to 9, but we need more votes. We had a little down week as far as voting. As far as listening to the show, the numbers are still good, still upticking, but for some reason the voting this week didn't reach everybody. So the 5P network is our Mutant of the Week until one of these two steal the crown from the 5P network. Gotta go to Florida, where a man flipped out. A Florida man was caught on camera trying to evade arrest by cartwheeling away from police. That's right. The now viral footage shows the gymnastics enthusiast blocking the south path of a truck at a Wawa in Orlando by doing a flip in the middle of the roadway. Officers took him down for apparently blocking traffic, but the man was able to wiggle out of their grasp. He then launched into a cartwheel, but did not get very far. The Orange County Sheriff's Office identified the spry 40-year-old as Gianfranco Fernandez. He was charged with battery on law enforcement and resisting arrest. So let's call him the Cartwheel Caper out of Florida. So he is our first mutant nominee, the Cartwheel Caper. Our second mutant nominee, right here in Georgia. It's been a Georgia, Florida kind of mutant year. It seems like a lot of mutant nominees are coming out of these two. A lot of Wisconsin this year, too. But anyway, out of Troup County, Georgia, the TikTok app, whose popularity exploded during the quarantine, is helping law enforcement solve cases. The app, which many use to share funny dance moves and routines, helped police find a man wanted in a 7-month-long drug investigation. The GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, arrested 7 people in early June at the Main Street Pub in LaGrange, Georgia. All arrests were linked to drug offenses at that bar. This sounds like a success, yet the GBI still had 1 suspect outstanding in the investigation. William Reeves Durga, he's 21, was wanted for sale of cocaine and use of a communication facility during the commission of a felony, according to the GBI. Police posted Durga's photo on Facebook back on July 2nd. Durga then began to taunt police by posting a TikTok of the post with Durga dancing across the screen and the caption, "Come and get me, bitch." The post went viral and racked up 4 million views. The LaGrange Daily News reached out to Durga on TikTok about his post, and he told them they straight up blasted me on social media, so I did it right back. Durga's viral fame did not help him keep a low profile and out of the way of law enforcement. The GBI, West Metro Regional Drug Enforcement Office, LaGrange Police Department, and the Troup County Sheriff's Office worked together and arrested Durga last Friday. Without Mr. Durga's viral TikTok video, we would not have received the amount of tips and information that ultimately led to his arrest. So thank you, the police department wrote on Facebook. 7 others were arrested in the investigation, which involved undercover drug purchases inside the pub involving employees and customers. The GBI said in a release there could be more arrests. So let's call him the TikTok taunter, the man who taunted police on TikTok. So we have the cartwheel caper and the TikTok taunter. So head over to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey, cast your vote. And if you would be so kind, hit the little share button on the bottom right of the post and share the poll with your friends. The more votes, the merrier. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show, we are now in the month of August, and on Saturday, August 1st, a special anniversary. It was the 39th birthday, you could say, or anniversary of the launch of MTV. Remember that little channel that used to play music videos when we were kids? That now only plays shows about teens getting knocked up and partying down at the Jersey Shore. Well, I thought I would do a show about how MTV changed music for the masses and how it personally changed music for me. Now, I've been a music fan since I could really remember having any sort of memory. I was born in 71. I can remember music being on the radio as early as 74, 75. And, you know, when I grew up, I listened to what my mom played on her turntable. I do have to say, if my mother did anything right, she played pretty decent music. And what we listened to on radio. Now, radio for me as a kid was AM radio. All the radios we had AM. My transistor radios that I had, AM. The car radio, AM. I didn't know what FM was until 81. So MTV was a defining moment in my life and many people's lives. You know, throughout history, you know, there's been a slew of events that have been said to have changed music, the course of music history, or at least altered the course that it was on. You know, the Beatles coming to America in 64, landing at JFK, and then going on the Ed Sullivan Show. A major, major moment in music. If you look at the Billboard charts, the year before the Beatles came, and immediately after, they changed music forever. It wasn't even a gradual process. Just look up Billboard top 40 or top 100 charts right before the Beatles came and right when they came to 6 months or even a year after. They totally changed music, and MTV did the same thing. Now, popular music today seems to change daily, if not hourly. There are so many avenues to obtain and produce music that it becomes overwhelming. A particular event that paved the way for a whole new overhaul of the music industry was the creation and launching of the television channel MTV. It was August 1st, 1981. That date probably stands out to a lot of people who happened to be watching television that night. That's the first time MTV broadcasted on the air. The program was fresh and new and gave exciting visual representations of the viewer's favorite songs and artists. Now, the only exposure I had to music videos before MTV was a show called America's Top 10 with Casey Kasem. It was a downscaled countdown of his American Top 40, obviously, where he went song by song of what was on the top 10 on the Billboard charts for that particular week. I think it aired on Saturday evenings in New York on Channel 5 before it was Fox. And he would go song by song, wouldn't play the video for every song, but would highlight a couple of songs in the countdown and then play the video for the number one song. So you would see like 3 videos out of the top 10 songs. And that was my first exposure to music videos. That was in the summer of 1980. So I kind of had an idea what music videos were, but I only saw them once a week for a half an hour. Okay. So prior to August 1st, 1981, there were several other attempts to deliver music television programming, but they couldn't get off the ground and stick. Robert Pittman, who eventually became the president and CEO of MTV, he set things in motion by creating the original program format. In fact, he released a test-driven early version of his idea on a small New York City station in the late 70s. The program was called Album Tracks and was the basic concept Pittman was aiming for. With the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll," the program was on the verge to changing history. The opening sequence, now wildly iconic, showed a montage of the Apollo 11 moon landing. In place of our nation's flag was a flash multicolored flag with MTV's logo front and center. Who could forget the rocket going off every hour, them planting the flag on the moon, and it changing colors with all the MTV logos? It's iconic. Iconic. To kick things off, as you all know, appropriately, the band The Buggles was the first video played on MTV. Video killed the radio star. It was the first song ever to be featured on MTV. Obviously, the budget in this newfound venture was very limited because investors, as well as the artists themselves, didn't know how lucrative music on television would be. As a result, the music videos weren't as intricate as they became. The videos were very simplistic, introduced by VJs or video jockeys, and usually provided by the record companies for free. They were just given to MTV. However, that didn't seem to deter the audience at all. Everyone loved it, which influenced more bands to make videos to air on MTV. So needless to say, MTV just blew up, and watching music became part of every home in the U.S. in the 80s. Now, music was no longer solely about a band's technical talent, but also about their live performance and their presence. Soon, every musician was trying to score a spot on MTV and put their name out there. MTV had such a pivotal role in establishing or helping to further the careers of many artists. Some of the early ones include Madonna, Duran Duran, Prince, so many others. Also, British bands, their new wave bands, were increasingly popular in the U.S. by airing bands like A Flock of Seagulls, Billy Idol, Tears for Fears, Depeche Mode, Soft Cell. MTV helped to trigger the second wave of the British invasion. There's no question about it. MTV became a symbol and defined culture in the mid-'80s. As a result, popular music became more visual, while dancing and clothing styles became more important. The market was profitable and trendy, and the videos in turn helped to boost album sales exponentially. This prompted the record labels to put more funds into music videos to make them slicker and more stylish. You have to have an image on MTV. Many bands throughout the years had videos broadcasted on MTV. Some include David Bowie, Rod Stewart, Eric Clapton, Dire Straits, who saw Money for Nothing, incorporated the line, "I Want My MTV," and many, many more. A rebranding of the TV logo, of the MTV logo with the famous "I Want My MTV" line helped to save MTV from going under. The tagline was designed and pushed by the instrumental art designer George Lois. Due to MTV's massive commercial success, the network began to branch out to explore and get into other ventures. The first annual MTV Video Music Awards was held on September 14th, 1984, and continues to be the network's most watched annual event. On top of that, a lot of other music-based comedy and animated shows. MTV began exploring the realm of reality programs as early as 1992. They began with shows like The Real World, was a commercial success for, 2 decades? And Road Rules, remember Road Rules? The subsequent overwhelming popularity of these types of shows sparked a huge demand for more, which resulted in shows like Jersey Shore and Catfish and Teen Mom 2. MTV is constantly changing between eras. Viewership has dropped way off, most likely due to the fact that they don't play music anymore. Elaborate and fun music videos have been replaced by teen dramas, unfortunately. Now, let's go back to the roots of MTV. Now, American Express, they wanted to sell financial services to people via television. So they bought the cable television company Warner Cable Corporation for $175 million back in '79. The plan was to use an interactive program they developed to reach every home in the network and sell them credit cards. Once the companies merged, they split it between a division responsible for building the cable infrastructure and an area responsible for programming. They had two main channels in the beginning, the Movie Channel and Nickelodeon. An executive decided they needed a third channel with a focus on music. So maybe you can thank American Express a little bit for MTV. Now, this had to be put together quickly. MTV had to be ready to go in 7 months. The Warner Amex board said no to the original pitch to launch a 24-hour music channel positioned as radio with pictures. After a little executive wrangling, MTV was approved on the terms that it would be cheap to run because the record companies would provide the music videos for free. MTV was approved for launch in January of '81, and its founders only had 7 months to build it because Warner Amex wanted it on air in the summer, which is when most fads begin. They wanted teenagers and college students returning from their summer break to be talking about MTV when they went back to school. As I mentioned, the first video was the Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles, and that happened at 12 midnight on August 1st, 1981. A song that would go on to be prophetic for how the channel would change the music industry. Funnily enough, the second music video played was Pat Benatar's You Better Run, perhaps programmed as a warning shot to the record companies who were still a bit skeptical about music on television. Now, MTV only began with 250 videos in their library, and believe me, I was there at the beginning, and you saw the same videos played over and over and over again. Now, music videos were in short supply at the beginning of the 80s because this was a novelty idea. So MTV played whatever they could get. A lot of the videos played on the first day were songs from the mid to late 70s. Many record companies in America didn't believe in MTV, and they weren't willing to provide music videos at their own cost. A bulk of the music videos MTV played came from Europe, where record companies made short promotional films for their artists to be played on video jukeboxes, a popular new piece of technology back at that time. With only 250 music videos being played over a 24-hour period, the early artists of MTV got a ton of exposure thanks to a combination of repetition and desperation. Now, as I mentioned, they created a second British invasion. MTV helped British new wave bands become popular in America because they were the artists getting played in heavy rotation. In the early days, MTV was only available in smaller American towns because the channel had been picked up in the big cities by the big cable companies yet. Teenagers living in these towns would watch MTV and then rush to their local record store to buy the albums of the artists they just saw. Still, a few American record companies didn't get it. The Human League's Don't You Want Me became a hit in the United States thanks to MTV. Other acts that benefited greatly were A Flock of Seagulls, Billy Idol, Spandau Ballet, Adam and the Ants, ABC, Bananarama, Soft Cell, Tears for Fears, and Depeche Mode. There would be one British band who would not only benefit from being on MTV, but would also define the music video aesthetic for the rest of the decade, and that band was Duran Duran. The legend goes that Duran Duran's manager saw MTV, and he figured he could break the band in America by producing an outrageous music video that would get people talking. The idea was to make a video featuring a catwalk show with models, sumo wrestling, and sex. The video they made was for Girls on Film. MTV edited the video to eliminate the real raunchy parts, but it still caused a stir and got Duran Duran the attention they wanted. Suddenly, every band wanted to make a video like Duran Duran. The band then went on to make the iconic videos of the era, Hungry Like the Wolf and Rio, both directed by the Australian director Russell Mulcahy, who'd quickly become the guy everybody wanted. Now, MTV lost $50 million in its first year, but was saved from bankruptcy by $1. 250 videos, that wasn't going to sustain MTV long term. So they needed to convince record companies to spend big money making extravagant videos that would expand MTV's roster and expand the appeal of the channel. More viewers meant more advertisers, which meant more revenue. The record companies were slowly coming around. They could see the sales spikes for records in MTV towns, but the advertisers were not completely sold. The bosses at MTV figured they needed to get their channel into more homes, so they came up with an advertising campaign consisting of 4 words: I want my MTV. They needed a big name to deliver the line. Through a series of connections, they landed a meeting with Mick Jagger. The MTV bosses flew to meet with Jagger, who told them the Rolling Stones don't do commercials. One of the MTV reps called his bluff by pointing out that the Rolling Stones did a tour that was sponsored by a perfume company. Jagger then told them the Rolling Stones only do commercials when they're paid a lot of money to do commercials. MTV didn't have the budget to secure the services of the Rolling Stones, but a cocky executive threw down a dollar bill and told Jagger, that's all we can afford. Jagger laughed and loved the confidence and agreed to do it for $1. Once word got out that the Rolling Stones were doing the I Want My MTV commercial, everybody wanted in. When the campaign started going to air, cable television stations around America were flooded with phone calls from people saying, I want my MTV, because that was what they told you to do. Call your cable company and tell them, I want my MTV. The campaign resulted in MTV being picked up in every American state, many stations surrendering in order to stop the flood of calls, and it began to turn the fortunes of the channel around. But over the course of the first year, where were the black artists on MTV? There weren't any. Very few black artists made it onto MTV, and people began to notice. Now, I remember the only 2 black artists I remember seeing before Michael Jackson came on was a song by Gary U.S. Bonds called This Little Girl, backed up by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, and a song called Demolition Man by Grace Jones. I don't remember any other African-American artist. It was billed as a rock station, and there weren't many African-American rock stars that fit the sound they were looking for. MTV said they didn't fit the album-oriented rock format of MTV. Rick James' Super Freak was one of the videos excluded, and the singer attacked MTV publicly for being racist. MTV's original head of talent and acquisition, Carolyn Baker, claimed she rejected Super Freak because there were half-naked women in it, and it was a piece of shit. As a black woman, I did not want that representing my people as the first black video on MTV, she said. Finger-pointing began with MTV going on the defensive and claiming record companies weren't investing in making videos for black artists. The record companies fired back by claiming they didn't bother because they knew MTV wasn't going to play the videos. The startling proof of MTV's bias was its resistance to play anything by a new solo artist, Michael Jackson, who had just left the Jacksons. But that was all about to change. Before 1983, Michael Jackson struggled to get played on MTV. Legend has it that the president of CBS Records, Walter Yetnikoff, threatened to pull all their artists from MTV if they continued to ignore Jackson, who had just put out his Thriller album and submitted the video for Billie Jean. CBS had Billy Joel, Cyndi Lauper, and Bruce Springsteen on their books. Tensions were high between CBS and MTV, but then something big happened. Jackson performed during a television special to commemorate Motown's 25th anniversary. Jackson took to the stage to perform Billie Jean in a fedora, a black sequin jacket, and a glove. Mid-performance, Jackson debuted his iconic moonwalk, and people went apeshit. Following the performance, Thriller began to sell 1 million copies a week and certified Jackson as a solo artist. MTV began playing Billie Jean in high rotation, and Jackson would become a staple of the channel, setting a new standard for what a music video was with Thriller and with Beat It. Now, the arrival of Jackson on MTV finally paved the way for other black artists who were added to the playlist. The other act who was put in high rotation in the wake of Billie Jean was Prince. Little Red Corvette was put into overdrive on MTV, and Prince blew the minds of teenagers across America, especially in those smaller towns. Jackson and Prince had a kind of intense rivalry going on. In the MTV era, their extravagant videos were seen as a way for them to one-up each other. Jackson dominated the pop world with Thriller, so Prince replied with Purple Rain. It was perfect for MTV because the videos helped define the channel as it continued to revolutionize the music industry and become a dominant force in pop culture. Now, Jackson and Prince became the first megastars of MTV in the 80s, but a third was about to arrive. The pop star's debut album failed to become a hit, and Madonna only managed to make a small impression on the dance club scene. One of the places to embrace Madonna from the outset was Australia, thanks to the work of Molly Meldrum on Countdown to promote her as the next big thing. Madonna released her second album, Like a Virgin, along with a salacious music video that immediately went into high rotation on MTV. Her album sales skyrocketed, and the title track dominated the charts. Madonna embodied everything that MTV was looking for as it moved away from its album-orientated rock format and into the pop megastar era. Now, in 1984, MTV reaches its apex. The music channel was no longer considered a fad. By 1984, it was in nearly every American home. Record companies and advertisers were spending millions on music videos, and everything that was cool in the 80s could be sourced back to MTV as a pop cultural phenomenon. To celebrate their dominance, MTV hosted its first award show, the VMAs. Dan Aykroyd and Bette Midler hosted the event at Radio City Music Hall. Madonna made everyone forget who actually won an award that year with her performance of Like a Virgin, where she appeared on the stage out of a giant wedding cake and in a wedding dress. The performance was punctuated by Madonna's odd dance moves that morphed into a lot of thriving and humping. Again, it led to more album sales for Madonna, and MTV's stature grew. Even Bruce Springsteen couldn't resist. He was already a big rock star from the 70s. He was initially very vocal about his resistance to the music video revolution. He insisted the music needed to remain the focus, not the video. Springsteen was already a big name, but he didn't want to make flashy music videos for the MTV audience despite insistence of his record label. Born in the USA was set for release in 1984 at the peak of MTV's powers, so to speak, so there had to be music videos. Springsteen compromised by agreeing to make them on his own terms. He hired filmmaker Brian De Palma to shoot an in-concert video for the first single, off Born in the USA, called Dancing in the Dark. The idea was to capture the experience of a live Springsteen show. The video ended with Springsteen pulling a girl on stage to dance with him, and the actress picked for that part was then unknown Courtney Cox. Once Dancing in the Dark hit MTV, it became one of the most played videos of 1984, and Born in the USA became Springsteen's highest-selling album. The Boss, in his own way, became a megastar, a commercialized megastar, thanks to MTV. Now, Dire Straits weren't big fans of MTV, but lead singer Mark Knopfler was inspired to write a song called Money for Nothing after witnessing a couple of guys working at an appliance store commenting on what they saw on a row of televisions that were on inside the appliance store. They were playing videos from MTV. The opening line, I Want My MTV, was sung by Sting, and when it got to MTV, they loved it so much they asked if there was a video for it. Dire Straits' record company had nothing, and Knopfler was known to be a little prickly about making music videos. A director pitched the idea of a music video using computer animation intercut with the band playing. Knopfler hated the idea, but reluctantly agreed, and the final video would be one of the first to use computer-animated human characters, Money for Nothing dominated the charts in 85 and broke Dire Straits into stardom in America. When MTV launched in Europe in 1987, Money for Nothing was the first video played. Now, we get to 85. MTV put a dollar figure on its worth. $667.5 million. That's what Viacom International paid Warner Communications and Warner Amex Cable for full ownership of the music channel. The sale outed MTV as a corporate entity, a contradiction to the rebellious nature of the channel. Many MTV employees saw the change in ownership as the end of an era. And I agree. 85, 86 is where it kind of, I don't want to say jumped the shark, but it started to steadily go downhill. Now, Whitney Houston, she blasted open the doors to a whole generation of R&B pop divas when How Will I Know hit MTV in 85. The veterans like Diana Ross, Donna Summer, Aretha Franklin, Chaka Khan, and Dionne Warwick didn't get played on MTV. Well, Donna Summer did, which she works hard for the money. Tina Turner's comeback helped a little, but there wasn't much from the new generation of R&B pop singers until Houston arrived. Now, you fast forward to 87. Appetite for Destruction was considered a flop after it only sold 200,000 copies in the months after its release in 87. Guns N' Roses record label Geffen had an A&R rep, Tom Zizot, who was being told by his bosses to pull the plug on the band. Zizot defied the orders of his managers and stormed into David Geffen's office to make a plea to save the band's career. Geffen asked Zizot what he could do to turn around their fate. Zizot asked Geffen if he could get MTV to play the video for Welcome to the Jungle. Geffen called in a few favors and granted Zizot's wish. But the catch was MTV would only play it once, at 4 a.m. on a Sunday night. As soon as the video finished playing, the MTV switchboard was flooded with 10,000 phone calls that it melted the system. The following day, Welcome to the Jungle was added to the MTV playlist, and the channel made a commitment to play all the band's videos. Sales of Appetite for Destruction began to double overnight, and Guns N' Roses became one of the biggest bands in the world. And that album, one of the biggest selling albums now in the history of music. Then you get into the early 90s, their influence on grunge when they played Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. A giant shift began to happen in the music industry towards grunge. Then you had Stone Temple Pilots, Rage Against the Machine, Marilyn Manson, Pearl Jam, Tool, Beck, Radiohead, Smashing Pumpkins. So they were very, very important in that transition. They were also very influential in politics. In 1992, they had a Rock the Vote. MTV, they are credited for having an influence on the 1992 presidential election by getting more young people interested in voting for the first time. Candidate Bill Clinton appeared on the show, titled Choose or Lose, Facing the Future with Bill Clinton. That's where Bill Clinton was asked the famous question about whether he inhaled when smoking weed in his college days. A majority of the youth vote that contributed to Clinton's election is attributed to MTV. Now, the great irony of this whole MTV thing is that it created a 24-hour music video channel and then killed it itself. Between 1995 and 2000, MTV played 35% less music videos. They began to invest heavily in reality TV shows, which it had innovated with one of the first, The Real World. Music videos no longer became the lifeblood of MTV. As of December 5th, 2016, MTV no longer airs any video music blocks. Post-2000, MTV struggled. Its ratings have been said to be falling systematically as younger viewers increasingly shift towards digital media. 80% of the American households still get MTV, but nobody's watching. MTV recently announced a launch of MTV Classic, a channel dedicated to the glory days of the blockbuster to celebrate its birthday. So MTV turning 39 this weekend. So that's how it had an effect on the country and the music industry. Now, for me, like I said at the top of this segment, I was getting my music from what my mother was playing, the classic bands and artists of the 70s. We went through a little disco phase. We were getting our own little turntables and our 45s and albums that my grandmother would buy for us. We would get at Christmas time, or each week my grandmother would bring us a couple of records. So we were getting to hear the music we wanted to hear. And again, AM radio. You know, you get into 1980, America's Top 10 on TV. Still listening to AM radio, what my mom was listening to. Not much has changed. In 1981, we noticed a little button. My grandmother and grandfather, we would go there every Saturday morning to their house. And they had this radio mounted to the kitchen wall, which was an intercom system to all the rooms in the house, had a little speaker on the wall with a volume button and an on-off switch, where we used to put Casey Kasem's Top 40 Countdown and go in one of the rooms and listen. But we never noticed this switch that said AM, FM. And one day we flipped it. This was at the beginning of 81, before MTV. We flipped that switch to FM. That kind of opened up a whole new world for rock music and FM radio. We didn't know what FM radio was. But only a few months after that was MTV. So I basically went from AM radio listening, transistor radio, very short time in FM, to MTV. And I got hooked immediately. I remember the day I discovered MTV. It was about a week after they launched. I didn't know anything about it. I was 10 years old. It was the summer I turned 10. I was walking through the living room of my childhood home, and my mother was sitting on the couch, really being entertained by something on TV. And she said to me, "You got to see this." And I said, "What is it?" She says, "It's a TV station that plays music all day and all night, 24 hours a day." And I looked up at the TV, and the video for the song Tempted by Squeeze was on the television. I looked at it. I said, "Oh, yeah, Ma, that's cool." And I didn't think much of it, you know, because I already loved music and I had ways to get music. And then I went back to it a few hours later because it was still on, and we were hooked. All of us, my brother, my sister, even my dad liked it. We loved MTV. It was always on in my house. And a few months later, they would advertise on MTV to get the stereo hookup, where they would come, the cable company, and run a wire from the back of your TV to the back of your stereo. Now you could do that. Go to Radio Shack. It's done in 2 minutes. But the cable company had to come out for this. And now you could get the stereo sound out of your stereo while watching the video on MTV. You talk about crazy. Okay? So we went from AM radio to MTV with a stereo hookup. It just opened the doors to so much music that I had no idea existed. A lot of it from England, bands and artists I had no idea existed. The first year was incredible. Now you get to the summer of 1982, a year after MTV launches. That was the first summer my mom felt my sister was old enough to be in charge. My parents had to work. So during the summer, my sister, who was 13, I was 11, my brother was 9. My sister was in charge of watching us all day. Now, on the summer days, we wanted to go out and do things, but while my parents were at work, the deal was we could go in the backyard, we could do, hang out in the house, but we couldn't go out to our friend's house or ride bikes because my mother didn't want us getting hit by a car while she was at work. She would call in midday to check up on us. So from 9 in the morning till about 1, 2 in the afternoon, we were by ourselves for that summer and summers going forward. That summer, MTV was so important to us that summer because we were left alone. My parents had to work, which would never fly nowadays, by the way. But we were left alone, and all we did all day was watch MTV. And that summer, so many of those songs from that summer are like the soundtrack to my childhood. That summer was so important. Having MTV that summer was so important. Looking back, I don't know what we would have done without MTV that summer. You leave 3 kids in a house with nothing to do. MTV occupied so much of our time, and it got us so into the music and the channel. So that's my take on MTV. Let me know what your first experience with MTV was and the impact it made on you if you're a music fan. Think back to the first video maybe you saw, or how important it was to your childhood as far as music style. And when do you think MTV jumped the shark? Now, the whole reason I put together my radio station, Charlie's 80s Attic, is because I wanted to capture those early years of MTV. The songs, I talked about the superstars MTV played, but there are still songs that were only played on MTV. You never heard them on the radio to this day until I came up with my radio station. I wanted to get that feeling of those early days of MTV to the listener. And that's why I go from 1980 to 1986 on my station, because I think after 86, 80s music just started to jump the shark. 87 was still okay. 88, 89 were terrible. 89 is the year I graduated high school. It sucks that music was so terrible back then. But that was the whole reason for me doing Charlie's 80s Attic. I wanted to recapture that whole feel of the early days of MTV. So that's why I'm working 60 hours a week at the radio station. So I hope you enjoyed our trip down memory lane of MTV. I would love to hear your memories of MTV. I really love to hear stories from people's childhoods and what certain things meant to them. So I'd love to see how you feel about it in the comments on the show notes. So where are we found? We're found on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio Public, Radio.com, Stitcher, CastBox, YouTube, Deezer, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, and on your Amazon Echo device, just say, Alexa, play the podcast, A Bunch of Malarkey. Get in touch with the show, A Bunch of Malarkey Pod Show at gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Malarkey Pod Show. We're on Instagram, A Bunch of Malarkey Podcast. And, of course, we are on Facebook. You can always send me a private message there. Next week is our 2-year anniversary show. And I just want to say thank you for all of you that have stuck around and the new listeners. I mean, podcast listenership is way down across the country. And I know even some of the regular listeners have contacted me and said, I have to catch up. I've been so far behind because I haven't been commuting and my routine's different. And I get it. I totally get it. We talked about routine, a couple of weeks ago or last week. I don't even remember. But, a routine is very important to people. And when you're off that routine, some things change, and I get it. So you'll get caught up. So, folks, if you're sitting around, flipping through the channels, wondering where the hell is the music on MTV, you still have to beware, because it's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe. Look after yourself. Look after each other. And I'll catch you next week for our 2-year anniversary show. Thanks, everybody.